Antagatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvandva moha nirmuktaha bhajanti mam drithavrataha yesham tvandagatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvandva moha nirmukta bhajanti mam vidhavrataha yesham tvandagatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvandva moha nirmukta bhajanti mam vidhavrataha
Yesham Tvandagatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvandva maha vidmuktam bhajante mam drithavrataha Whose to but antagatam completely eradicated papam sin jananam of the persons punya pious karmanam whose previous activities they dvandva of duality moha delusion nirmuktaha free from bhajante engaged in devotional service ma to me drithavrataha with determination. Translation: persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life, and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated, are freed from the dualities of delusion, and they engage themselves in my service with determination. Purport. Those eligible for elevation to the transcendental position are mentioned in this verse. For those who are sinful, atheistic, foolish, and deceitful, it is very difficult to transcend the duality of desire and hate. Only those who have passed their lives in practicing the regulative principles of religion, who have acted piously, and who have conquered sinful reactions, can accept devotional service and gradually rise to the pure knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then gradually they can meditate in trance on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the process of being situated on the spiritual platform. This elevation is possible in Krishna consciousness, in the association of pure devotees, for in the association of great devotees one can be delivered from delusion. It is stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam 5.5.2 that if one actually wants to be liberated, he must render service to the devotees. Mahat sevam dvaram ahur vimukti. But one who associates with materialistic people is on the path of leading to the darkest region of existence. Tamodvaram yoshitam sanghi sangam. All the devotees of the Lord traverse this earth just to recover the conditioned souls from their delusion. The impersonalists do not know that forgetting their constitutional position as subordinate to the Supreme Lord is the greatest violation of God's law. Unless one is reinstated in his own constitutional position, it is not possible to understand the Supreme Personality or to be fully engaged in his transcendental loving service with determination. Yesham dvantakatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvandva mohanya mukta bhajanti mam vridha lataha. Persons who have acted piously in the previous lives and in this life, and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated, are freed from the dualities of delusion, and they engage themselves in my service with determination. So Srila Prabhupada explains here in the purport that these are the qualifications mentioned in this verse of engaging oneself in devotional service with a great determination. And that's the result of acting piously. The pious activities, they cultivate naturally the mode of a goodness. And as mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam, if one becomes situated in the mode of goodness, then determination develops. Why people are not determined? Because they're influenced by the mode of passion. The passion means that one never really feels satisfied. One is always looking for a different situation, a different position, different activities, a different place to reside, different relationships, and so on and so forth. Never really satisfied. The mode of passion. One Srila Prabhupada mentioned to his disciples that is your disease. You always want to change. Even in our own society, sometimes I mention that in the early days, basically, of course, we carry on with our Krishna conscious practice as it used to be, but still some minor things are changing that we notice. In the beginning, I remember our temple activities were very simple. In the morning, Mangal Arati, chanting Hare Krishna, Prasad. And even outsiders, they often participated in our morning program. They came from Mangalarti. That's the people from the street. Of course, the temple has to be a little bit, central, located in the center. So they see lights are on, what are they doing? They come and join the program, because it used to be very simple. Now we're changing, adding another translation, another prayer, another reading, adding. And that becomes a little difficult for outsiders. Because if there are too many things we do, they don't really understand, then they get the impression, oh, you're doing so many rituals, I cannot really relate to, I cannot understand. And then they feel discouraged. So that is a little bit our tendency. We are not satisfied with the simple things. We have to make it more complicated, more complex, more difficult. And then we tend to think then that is something elevated, genuine. But actually, the example is given of breathing. The breathing process is so simple we don't even think about it. But does it mean it is not so valuable? If you cannot breathe, you do anything to get your breath back. Basis of existence, of life. So valuable. You would pay any amount of money to be able to breathe properly. And yet it is such a simple process. So simple does not necessarily mean it is less genuine or less valuable. Krishna consciousness is saying, basically our process is very simple. Our spiritual breath, chanting our rounds, hearing about Krishna, taking nice prasad, that's it. And then we'll do some other activities which are necessary. So we should keep it this way. And then, if there's a need, if you feel a need of change, different, then go deeper. Enhance, increase the quality. This is what we should change. Not from simple to complex, but rather from simple to more pure, more pure, more pure, more pure. Then we will enter deeper and deeper into Krishna consciousness. Not by unnecessarily adding externally. Internally we have to add purity. Then we really begin to make advancement. Another thing I would like to talk a little bit about is the importance of optimism. That's another aspect of the mode of goodness. If someone becomes situated in the mode of goodness, he becomes very, very optimistic. Now, often Srila Prabhupada mentioned in his letters to various disciples that we should not be so overly optimistic regarding material life. But that we cannot expect. That would be utopia. There will always be shortcomings in our material activities, material life, relationships. Of course, we hope for the best, but expect the worst to happen, because that's reality. But when it comes to spiritual life, a devotee must be very, very optimistic. One time Srila Prabhupada mentioned in one letter, unless you're optimistic, you cannot make advancement in spiritual life. You have to be optimistic. And Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, he gives us so many reasons to feel optimistic. Of course, in this verse, we might not feel very optimistic. Now, how many pious activities we performed in our previous life, we don't know, if at all. And in this life also, it doesn't look very bright for most of us. There are always exceptions, of course. Those who fell from heaven, but usually our previous life before Krishna consciousness, it was not very pious. But then Srila Prabhupada, he provides the optimism for us. Just by practicing Krishna consciousness, everything is accomplished. By chanting Hare Krishna, one time chanting Hare Krishna without any conscious offenses, that eradicates more sinful activities than anybody is possible to perform in one lifetime. Just one time, Hare Krishna. Such a nice process. Powerful. We don't have to look for something complicated. Hare Krishna is so simple and yet so powerful, so genuine. Sometimes we lose perspective of how powerful this process of Krishna consciousness actually is. We don't know, but we are hearing from Srila Prabhupada's purports. Prabhupada was so optimistic, unbelievable. Imagine when Srila Prabhupada arrived in Boston Harbor. I have been to Boston. Krishna. It's not much about Krishna. That's what you think as a devotee, Krishna. Where is Krishna? You have to force yourself to remember Krishna. Such an un-Krishna conscious environment. And not very optimistic. But Srila Prabhupada, although at times he also thought, am I wasting my time? What am I doing here? People are so engrossed in ignorance and sinful activities. I mean, these are the regulative principles of people living in those cities and countries and areas, in Western countries specifically. And their regulative principles are sinful activities. So it doesn't look very optimistic. But Prabhupada, he was optimistic. When it comes to spiritual life, we must be optimistic, and we have all reasons for it. I give you a few points related to optimism. That to keep ourselves motivated, we have to overcome the feelings of doubt and fear. These are the main obstacles for feeling enthusiastic and optimistic. There's fear and there's doubt. Even Lord Krishna Bhagavad Gita, he compares doubt or doubts to demons. Because what's the business of demons? They always try to disturb the surrender and devotional activities of the devotee. This is exactly what these doubts are doing. They try to disturb, discourage, bewilder the devotee to continue with his practice of Krishna consciousness. So doubts and fear, and continually we have to tell ourselves, I can do it, I can do it. Isn't it? Often the doubts creeps up in the mind of the devotees. Can I really become a pure devotee? But definitely not in this very lifetime. Maybe next, but I'm not even sure about that. These are doubts. We have to tell ourselves continuously, yes, I can do it. It's exactly what Krishna told Arjuna. Arjuna, he thought, no, I cannot fight. Sorry, Krishna, that's my decision. He placed his famous Gandiva bow to the ground, which he took that vow never to do that. Can you imagine what a sankalpa Arjuna took? If anybody dares to force me to put down my bow, I will kill him. This was his vow. And yet he himself did it. He felt so discouraged, emotionally completely down to the ground. And yet Krishna, he didn't comply. He just said, no, you can do it. Arjuna, no, I cannot. Yes, you can. That's optimism. You should always think like this. And our mind tells us, not possible. No, it is possible. Maybe not in this way, but in a different way. There's always a way around. Even in non-human species, we can see that what determination they have, what optimism they have. And one wants to get the piece of food, there's some obstacle, immediately goes around, then you can place another obstacle in front of the end. It is this way, it is this way. You do it again and again, think a little bit, cross over it. So determined. So we should become like this. Little obstacle, so what? Go around it. Another one, go around it. Another big one, cross over, jump over it. Always find some way to go on, continue with your Krishna consciousness. Some determination must be there. But unless we are optimistic, we cannot have determination. It's impossible. No matter how you really feel at a particular moment, or what is happening in your life, resolve to remain cheerful and upbeat. That's the word, upbeat. It's been said that you should never share your problems with others. That's another point. Because 80% of people don't care about your problems anyway. And the other 20% are kind of glad that you haven't got them in the first place. So don't even bother. Drag others into your world of problems and difficulties. Of course, it is part of our Krishna conscious process. We have to reveal, of course, we have to reveal our mind. Arjuna did it to to Krishna. I cannot fight sorry because I feel it. So sometimes we have to do it. But if you take Arjuna as an example, he did it for half an hour in his entire life. Not more. Not on a daily basis. I don't know what to do. I don't know. He knew what to do. He was very determined. He was capable, skilled in his own profession. He knew what he was doing. And yet, he had some problems. So that sometimes it is necessary to reveal your mind, reveal your heart, get over it and go on. But not that we try to drag as many as possible into our own world of problems and difficulties. In any case, nobody can solve anyway. Then why we drag others into it? We are already convinced nobody can help me. That should not be done. Rather, we should be very, very determined to solve these problems, conflicts in the best possible way. And Krishna will help. Yes, in study after study, psychologists have determined that optimism is the most important quality you can develop for personal and professional success and inner happiness, what is the spiritual life. The devotee will be successful, there's no doubt, if he is optimistic. Optimists have three special behaviors, all learned through practice and repetition. First, they look for the good in every situation. No matter what goes wrong, they always look for something good or beneficial. And that surprisingly, most of the time they find it. They always seek the valuable lesson in every setback or difficulty in life. What can I learn from this? Now something negative, a problem occurred. What can I learn from this? That's optimism. Difficulties come not to obstruct, but to instruct. Very nice slogan. Difficulties, they come not to obstruct us, to hold us back, to set us back, but rather to instruct us. What can I learn from this? And there's a big difference between obstruction and instruction. An optimist, he always sees the instruction. Whatever happens to him, what can I learn from this? What am I supposed to learn? That's optimism. And of course grow from it. Not just learn, but also grow, become more experienced. And the third, optimists always look for the solution to every problem. Instead of blaming or complaining when things go wrong, they become action-oriented. What's the next step? Where do we go from here? Now this particular, whatever happened, what's the next step? They look to the front, always to the front. Not back. Sometimes you have to do, but just to learn from it, not more. A nice example we always give on the riding on a bicycle. You should not look too long back. It's a little bit dangerous. Crash against the next tree. Also present also not so good. Look at your feet all the time. Look to the front. If something happens, you drive over some obstacle, some piece of wood or something, you look a little bit back just to get the idea of what happened, but not more. So that's another symptom of an optimist. Always, he's action-oriented. Okay, this happened now, what's the next step? What can we practically learn from it, and what do we have to do to continue? Optimists think and talk about the future and where they're going rather than the past and where they came from. Although, of course, they learn from the past. They're always looking forward rather than backwards. They continually visualize their goals and ideals and talk about it in a positive way. We have so many ideas, but anyway, what's the use to talk about it? Will not happen anyway. No, they talk about visions in a positive way, practical way, and they're convinced about it. And the more positive and motivated they feel, then they're more eager to be engaged in goal-oriented activities and projects. They always feel inspired, they feel empowered. It's another symptom of an optimist, he always feels empowered. Optimistic devotee, he always feels empowered by Krishna, Guru, Vaishnavas. Optimism means to control one's thoughts. How can we, in a practical way, control our mind and thoughts? By being optimistic. So these are a few points I wanted to share with you related to optimism. And I would like to invite some questions or comments. Hare Krishna. Yes.
This verse describes that if one fires through the...
If one
fires.
If one fires?
If one fires.
If one is pious.
Yes. Through his many lives, that he will get determination in bhakti.
Yeah.
My question is how it's possible that bhakti is dependent of one's piety?
No, bhakti is not dependent on anything. But we have to perform activities which are favorable to Hare Krishna, favorable to develop bhakti. If you want to attain anything, you have to do something. And put it in a simple way. If you want to get bhakti, you have to do something. So you have to engage yourself in activities which are favorable to receive bhakti. Just like if you act and behave very impious, you will not get the mercy of devotees, unless you are some special case, like Jadavimada. But normally, if you behave very impious towards devotees, it will be unlikely that you will receive the kripa, mercy, bhakti. But our situation is so unique. Srila Prabhupada gave Krishna consciousness to everyone. Pious or impious doesn't matter. Just by somehow coming in contact, associating with the devotees, all piety develops. Even if we didn't have any. But still, if somehow if one is pious, then he is much more prone to come closer to the devotees, associate with the devotees, that take up the process of devotional service. And yet, the bhakti is also so powerful. Even if there are no qualifications, just by the mercy of someone who has bhakti, pure bhakti, devotion in his heart, he becomes infected. It's contagious association with the pure devotees. one becomes infected. But still we can see people react in a different way. Is it not? Some are here, some are sitting in a disco, or dancing in a disco right now. Why? Because more pious, more impious. If people are too impious, it will be difficult for them. So we don't care so much about our background, but now we have a chance to take up Krishna consciousness and become pious and Krishna conscious, everything together. Any other thoughts? Yeah.
Regarding the subject about optimism, sometimes I think
It's because he's translating it, it's very difficult acoustically to hear.
Just to be louder, or
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
Like you're normally speaking.
Before Krishna consciousnesses, I believed in God. It was very easy for me to understand. Yes, after this life, I will attain God, or I will go to spiritual world. And after I became a Krishna conscious devotee, it became very difficult to me, for me to attain spiritual world, because I became to understand how much endeavor or purity and everything one needs to attain actual spiritual world. And in that way, I became really much less optimistic that one day I will really go to spiritual world. So if you could say something, but I know it's because of ignorance before, but nevertheless, it's a little bit discouraging that after 20 years of practicing Krishna consciousness one sees I didn't change so much. It's not possible for me to attain anything.
I think you changed a lot.
I don't think so.
I think so. Like the example is given, riding in an airplane. If you sit in an airplane very, very high up in the sky and you look out of the window, you hardly see that you move. Is it not? See the vast around the earth, you hardly notice that you're moving. But a person on the ground, looking up, yourself in the air, goes like this. So sometimes we might not notice so much that we actually advance, but we are. You talk about Krishna, you chant Hare Krishna, you come to the program, you think about Krishna. No, you think about Krishna, this way or that way. You know you're not this body, you're the soul, eternal. So many things. You make so much advancement, and others, they might even point out to you that you're so different. When I met you, you said 20 years? When I met you 5 years ago, you were completely different. You were thinking differently, talking differently. Now you're just, Krishna, Krishna. What happened to you? They notice. They're on the ground. They will notice your advancement. So you have to revive that kind of simplicity you had in the beginning. And it's important for our senior devotees. They should not boast or be proud that it's so difficult. And explain how complex and difficult this process is. It is simple. The process is simple. You just have to continue. That's the only difficult part. Not the complexity. There's one verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. For a devotee who accepts the lotus feet of Gaunitai as their life and soul, who entirely, completely depend on the mercy of Gaunitai and Guru, even the most difficult tasks, they can easily perform, easily do. But if one doesn't receive that mercy, even very simple things become very difficult. Just to brush your teeth, it becomes a difficult task. That's my toothbrush, I didn't put it away. Any little thing becomes so difficult. But if we just throw ourselves at the lotus feet of Gaunitai, Guru and the devotees, very difficult things, very easy. No, we ourselves, we don't have much strength. But when you just depend on Krishna, Guru Krishna, you will get the strength to do impossible things. I remember when I was young, a small devotee, and still small devotee, young devotee, young devotee. I remember we did amazing things. I was 3 years in Krishna consciousness. I mean, what do you know after 3 years? And I was opening the temple president, and going to former communist countries, crossing the borders, you know, with books. I used to have one trick. When I first, 76, I crossed the border to the Czech Republic. Very difficult border. They checked us for 6 hours. Can you imagine? This wasn't a problem for us. Exciting. Something different, something is happening. Finally, something is happening in my life. And I had one trick that they could not find the books I was hiding in the van. I placed all the Bhagavad Gitas, and you know where you normally have the spices and sugar and flour, like this, with these drawers you open. So I placed in front of all the Bhagavad Gitas, lined up Bhagavad Gitas, you know, to bring cross over the border. I had these sugar packages in front of them, and one I completely opened the top, and I leaned it against the door, like the drawer like this. So when the guy from the customs, when he came in, he opened the door, the sugar package smashed to the ground, really big mess, and he said, "Oh, sorry." And I looked at him, and he said, sorry, went left, you know. So this way I took the books over. It was exciting. But nowadays, you know, if you tell some devotee, could you do that? It's impossible. So that, you know, that simple feeling of optimism, enthusiasm, excitement, we have to cultivate this, maintain this. This is Krishna consciousness. Anything contrary, that is material consciousness. Even on the material plane, if you want to accomplish anything, you want to be successful, you know, movie star, fame, you have to do something, you have to endeavor, you have to work, be enthusiastic, go for it, practice, then you become expert. Same in Krishna consciousness. You have to consciously endeavor, work hard, not overwork yourself. Also important for devotees. We have a long way to go. So we have to, you know, divide our energy and everything, time. But at the same time, you know, we have to move on with a healthy pace, you know, practice. You want to learn some instrument, piano or violin, you have to practice. Same thing with Krishna consciousness. Practice nicely on a regular basis, you will become more and more expert in your practice of Krishna consciousness. So thank you very much, Hare Krishna, for your attention. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanandi ki jai.